Today we're still in Lebanon and we're having another Lebanese wine called Atibaia. They make just two wines, Atibaia Rouge and Atibaia Blanc. These are their wines. It's a very small property. It's a startup like there's been a lot of in Lebanon over the last 10, 15 years. I think the first vintage was 2009. It's a startup though by a family that's been in the alcohol business for a very long time, both as importers and as arak producers and wine producers in the Bekaa Valley. But this is a new property in Samarj Bale, which is a small village north of Beirut, looking over the coast in the mountain, looking over the sea, 400, 500 meters elevation, with beautiful old ruins of a sort of Crusade era castles, which are worth a visit on their own. And so this wine right off the bat really jumped to the top of the charts in Lebanon from the get-go. Now the vines and the vineyards were old but fallow, so they were restored, and so therefore they didn't really plant everything from scratch, which is great. So they restored the old vineyards and they were able to make their wine very good wines rather quickly. It's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah. Syrah used to be blended in some of the old Cabernet Sauvignon in California going back decades, so it's a bit traditional that way, but this is more like a 50-50, not a 10-80 or 10-90. And with a little bit of Petit Verdot thrown in, and the mix changes from year to year. It's just a terrific wine. I've had it before. For this one here, this is a Magnum, so I opened it 5 hours ago, just to get it to breathe, and it's a young wine, although it's more ready to drink than some of the older vintages like the 12, 11, and 9. I was advised that those actually still need more time, so we're just going to drink the 2013. When I first opened it, what really jumped at me was right off the bat this really strong gaminess, but more not necessarily gaminess as a sort of a foul, gaminess. It's more like cold cuts, fat ham and saucissons, that kind of nose, that kind of sensation, which is, I found very, very appealing right away, especially, very savory in a wine like this, which was very interesting. A few hours later, it was more olive, really very strong olive, which you get sometimes some Cabernet Sauvignon, but you also get from the wines in Lebanon and in the Mediterranean in general. And so maybe that makes sense from that point of view. And now let's see what we have, a little later. What I'm getting right now is really more of, which is kind of striking, blackberries. Really strong, sweet blackberries. Blackberries can be tart and sweet, depending, of course, but this is really the sweet side of the blackberry. There's still a little bit of the gaminess underneath, but this is like a third, sort of version of the nose, which is more blackberries. And it's really just amazing because I don't really get that very often on these on wines in general. I mean, you get some berries, some cherries, but hard to pinpoint that it's really blackberry. The palate is terrific, and the attack, it's really the fruit, but tempered by still that savoriness that's still there, hasn't gone away. So it's a very interesting mix because you can feel them both without having some odd mix that's like, wow, sweet and sour, but it's there. The finish is still a little bit tight, and I think it's going to open up some more. Again, it's a Magnum, it's young, and these Lebanese wines really do tend to take their time in opening up and in sort of blossoming in the bottle. But the finish is tight, and it's a little bit more tannic and bitter. And I think that's maybe the olive coming back, because olives can have this really sharp, olives that are not super, like, depending on how you like them, but olives can have this sort of sharp, not quite mature, not quite ready if you want taste, if you like them really on the more tart side, and you have that tartness on the finish. But the acidity is there, and I think it's going to be great with dinner. It doesn't have to be Lebanese food. Of course, this is a classic red wine with classic grapes, and it's going to be good with everything. It's 14.5% alcohol, where things have been going lately because of the heat and because of the sun. especially in a place like Lebanon. But it doesn't feel hot on the tongue or in the mouth. It's just that just amazing mix, and it's really very very enjoyable. We're gonna enjoy it tonight. Cheers. See you soon.